Let's get it. 580 Sports Talk is live and direct on a Tuesday. It's going up for the next 2 hours and change here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and our Facebook page, WIBW News. However, wherever, whenever you're catching the show today, thanks so much for being a part of the audience here on 580 Sports Talk. My name is Dan Lucero. Brendan Dorzinski and Spencer Dupuis will be along in a little bit. You may have caught there in the open that I said we're with you for the next 2 hours and change. And you may be thinking to yourself, wait a second, Dan. It's a 3-hour show, right? 3 to 6. What's going on in the 5 o'clock hour? I'm so glad you asked, because I get to tell you that tonight, for the first time in the winter prep sports season, we've got high school basketball. 580 Preps Tuesday night hoops tipping off the season tonight. That's right. Football finished Saturday. Basketball starts tonight. The winter prep sports season is in progress starting tonight. And we have got a 580 Preps Tuesday night hoops doubleheader. 4 teams ranked in the top 10 in their respective class doing battle tonight in the United Kansas Conference as the Seaman Vikings and Lady Vikes play host to the Piper Pirates. I'll be on the play-by-play. The coach, Larry Latimer, will join me for color analysis. So glad to be back with Lat for another season of broadcasting high school basketball here on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. Our schedule is available on our Facebook page, WIBW News, our X account. Everything happens on X, including our basketball schedule. 580 Sports Talk on X. And this is our debut broadcast. We've got a Tuesday and a Friday every week for the next 3 weeks leading up to the holiday break on 580 WIBW. And again, starts tonight. Seaman and Piper in the United Kansas Conference. UKC tips their games at 5:30. So that means we'll plan on pregame at about 5:15. Now, you've been listening long enough. You know that all times when it comes to high school basketball are approximate, because you never know. JV might go overtime. JV might go to a running clock. You never really know how that's all going to shake out, but we'll be on about 15 minutes prior to tip. We'll bring you the girls' game, which is scheduled for a 5:30 start, and we'll bring you the boys' game to follow here tonight. So that means we are a little short on 580 Sports Talk today. I'll duck out in the 4 o'clock hour to get up north to Viking Gymnasium. Brendan and Spencer will take you to the finish line from there. Plenty to discuss on this Tuesday edition of the show. We're going to talk some college hoops on the show today. Kansas State. Oh, gracious. You can't lose by 16 to Bowling Green at home. I suppose there are circumstances or caveats that might make it okay to lose by a little bit to Bowling Green in different circumstance. And okay is, again, a relative term here. Bowling Green is not like they can tie their own shoes. Like they can walk and chew gum. This is not one of those SWAC teams that's in the 300s in the Ken Pom. As it stands right now, only one other team in the MAC is ranked higher in the Ken Pom than Bowling Green. Kansas State came in, and if you listen to the pregame, with the requisite respect for their opponent. They lost by 16, and they never led. And their 3 best players were terrible. And a lineup change flatly did not work. I have not heard Jerome Tang as upset in a post-game press conference as I heard him last night. But he can be upset all he wants. He's not as upset as the paying customers. You can't lose that game, not only because you can't lose your home games to mid-majors by double digits while never leading. You can't lose that game because I don't know if you've noticed, if you're not a Kansas State fan or not a diehard, tied-in Kansas State follower, I am not sure there is a more disaffected group of fans of an athletic department in the Power 4 sports all over the country than fans of Kansas State athletics, the revenue sports, football and men's college basketball. The natives are restless. And you give them that right now? I don't know about that one, Jim. I don't know about that one. I should have tried a little harder. I was trying to do a Tony Romo thing there. I don't know, Jim. That's my Tony Romo. That was one of those last night for Kansas State. We're going to get into that a little bit later on. KU is in action tonight. They will not have Darryn Peterson in the lineup. That was announced earlier this morning. Bill Self saying that Bucket Jones is still not quite 100%, so he will not be on the floor as the 21st-ranked Jayhawks host the 5th-ranked UConn Huskies tonight at Allen Fieldhouse. We'll get a preview of that one a little bit later on in the show. And we will get Michael Swain's perspective. Michael Swain of Fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. He'll join us at the bottom of the 4 o'clock hours. He does every Tuesday for Jayhawk Weekly. Got some Chiefs thoughts that we're going to get to on the show today. Andy Reid is actively hurting his team with his 4th down decisions. We have the numbers now that back that up. If you were feeling that way, particularly following a couple of really bad decisions to punt on some 4th and shorts against Dallas, well, we have the numbers now that support that it could be the difference between making the playoffs and not for the Chiefs, their 3rd down performance. We also have the numbers on the Chiefs' biggest problem, the biggest on-field quantifiable problem that the Chiefs have. We pointed to a lot of intangible stuff over the last couple of weeks. Tangibly, the biggest problem with the Chiefs is they don't sack the quarterback. Why not? What happened? We'll do our best to wrap our minds around what might have happened. Plus, again, it's a shortened show today, but we'll still have some 580 Sports Talk headlines to get to. We got What Is Wrong With You coming up to the 4 o'clock hour and a whole lot more. We want to hear from you on the program today. Get at us on the text line, 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429, where I can get your texts and hear from you. Can also interact in the live chat on YouTube. If you're watching the show live on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, first of all, like and subscribe. Subscribe to the channel. Doesn't cost you anything but a click. And if we find 30 more subscribers, when we do, because I know we will. I know there are 30 more of you heroes out there that haven't clicked that subscribe button or tapped it on your touch screen on your mobile device of choice. There are 30 more of you out there that are going to do it. I know it. And when you do, when we get to 900 subscribers, we're going to do 580 Sports Talk Idol and all sing for you. And that's going to be a fun time. But you got to go subscribe to make that happen. So if you have not done so, go subscribe to the YouTube page, 580 Sports Talk. Check out the show on YouTube. Check out the live chat. It's a fun way to interact with your hosts and with your fellow listeners as the show goes on throughout the day. I see Christopher and Mark in early on the program today. Great to hear from both of you. Look forward to hearing from more of you as we go today here on 580 Sports Talk. Remember when Chris Jones dubbed himself the CEO of Sack Nation? When did that start? I want to say that was probably right around when the Chiefs started making Super Bowls, in 2019 or 2020. Him and Frank Clark had that sort of bond as teammates, as fellow defensive linemen, and they went all in on the Sack Nation thing. And Chris Jones said he was the CEO of Sack Nation. And the Chiefs, throughout their dynastic run, have been one of the best teams in the NFL when it comes to sacking the quarterback. Back in 2022, which is the Super Bowl championship season for the Chiefs, they recorded 55 sacks in the regular season. They outdid themselves in 2023, another Super Bowl championship season, with 57 sacks that year. But last year, a step back. Even though some of the underlying numbers about pressures and pass rush win rate and those things and quarterback hits, even though those were largely unchanged from the year before, the sack total diminished dramatically. They only had 39 sacks in 17 regular season games in 2024. And this year, through 12 games, so with 5 games to play, the Chiefs have played 12 games and have, as a team, 20 sacks. Not even 2 a game. They are on pace. See if I can't do the quick math here. They're on pace for less than 30 sacks. How did this happen? How did we get here? It's particularly jarring because everybody we talked to, tied in and not, about the Chiefs' defensive line. Everybody who was there watching training camp, everybody came away buzzing about the defensive line. And when I say tied in and not, I mean like employees, like Mitch Holthus was enthusiastic about the defensive line, but so was Matt Derrick, who covers the team for a living. So were, more objective national reporters like Matt Verderame. Everybody was buzzing about the Chiefs' defensive line, how good it looked, how deep it was shaking out to be, how much the young additions of day 2 draft picks, Ashton Gelati and Omar Norman Lott, were going to help this group play well and get back to the prolific sack form that they had shown in 2022 and 2023. And that has not happened. Now, I'm not here to do an X's and O's breakdown. Number one, this is a radio show. Those are really hard to do on radio. I don't know if you know that. Number two, I'm not an expert in the X's and O's, so I'm not entirely qualified to give you a breakdown in the same way that, like, maybe Ryan Clark or Marcus Spears or whoever is going to give you on ESPN, or somebody might give you on the NFL Network. I'll save the tape stuff, the grinding of the tape for the professionals, for the experts. I'll just give you raw data. I'm good at that. And sometimes maybe you might say I give you too much, but I have the raw data. I have the numbers that maybe explain where the sacks came from and where they have gone. Back in 2022, Chiefs had 55 sacks. That is looking right now that will be the last truly dominant sack year for Chris Jones. He had 15 and a half that year. He was the only guy in double figures that season, but the Chiefs still managed 55 sacks. The edge rushers on that team, Chris Jones has the impact and the sack totals of a top-tier edge rusher. So I'm lumping, for the sake of the discussion here, Chris Jones in with the rotational edge rushers. The rotational edge rushers in 2022, you had 2 veterans on their last legs, Frank Clark and Carlos Dunlap. You had rookie George Karlaftis, and you had young Mike Dana. That year, those 4 guys combined for 20 sacks. Karlaftis had half a dozen in his rookie year. Clark and Dana had 5 apiece. Dunlap had 4. Chiefs defensive backs combined for 7.5 sacks that year. That's every defensive back, cornerback, safety. Chiefs linebackers had 7 sacks. And interior defensive linemen, not including Chris Jones, had 5 sacks that season. So your best guys got you 35.5 of the 55 sacks. Your top tier, you're generally speaking, the guys that when you rush 4, those are the guys that are on the field. They got you 30.5. And if you want to, 35.5. And if you want to include the other interior defensive linemen that year, like the Derek Nottie types, that would be 40.5 of the 55 sacks. In 2023, they had 57 sacks, and that was despite Chris Jones taking a step back and only having 10.5 sacks that year because Karlaftis leveled up, and he had 10.5 in year 2. Charles Omenihu proved to be a very good addition to the Chiefs. He had 7 sacks in what was basically half a season. Mike Dana had the best year of his career, 6.5 sacks. Malik Herring and Felix Udike-Uzomah combined for 2 sacks. So that's Jones and your edge group with 36.5 of those 57 sacks. Defensive backs that year had 9 sacks. You may note 2023 was the last year that L'Jarius Sneed was a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. L'Jarius Sneed, an outstanding blitzer. Linebackers had 8.5 sacks that year. Drew Tranquil, I think, had 4.5 of those 8.5 sacks. The interior defensive line, not really a factor that year, just 3 sacks outside of Chris Jones's 10.5. So 43 of the 57 sacks that year coming from the line, and then the rest coming from the defensive backs and linebackers. Last year, obviously, Chris Jones declined. His sack total declined. His raw numbers, the pressure rate, and all of those things, though that held pretty steady, but he wasn't recording sacks. He only had 5 last year. George Karlaftis led the way with 8 sacks. Mike Dana took a step back, 3.5 sacks. Felix Henry-DK-Uzama had 2.5 sacks last year. Charles Omenihu only played 7 games. He had 1 sack. So that was it for the defensive line, effectively. The top tier, the guys that ideally are your best pass rushers. Last year had 20 sacks. Defensive backs, first year post L'Jarius Sneed, 3.5 sacks last season. Linebackers had 6 sacks. Interior defensive linemen, not including Chris Jones, if you rolled them all up into one big ball last year, they would have led the Chiefs in sacks. 9.5 sacks for interior defensive linemen not named Chris Jones last year. Big part of that, Turk Wharton, 6.5 sacks last season. And now this year, the Chiefs have 20 sacks. And from your interior pass rusher that you're paying $30+ million a year, plus your top 4 edge guys, 11.5 of those 20 sacks. 5 sacks for George Karlaftis, 3 for Chris Jones, 2 for Charles Omenihu, 1 for Mike Dana. Half a sack so far this season in his rookie year for Ashton Gillotte. Defensive backs have 3 sacks, linebackers 3.5 sacks. Interior defensive linemen, not including Chris Jones, have just 2 sacks this season. Jerry Tillery's got a sack. Omar Norman-Lott has a sack. That's it. So the simple answer to this, and a texter landed on it just as we launched into the conversation. Texter from the 785 said, quite plainly, they're too old. And listen, that's part of it. Certainly for Chris Jones. Like, this is the life cycle of an NFL player, right? Like, you get into your early 30s, your play begins to decline, your production begins to decline. This is how it typically works, even for the all-time greats. And if Chris Jones is something shy of an all-time great, something shy of like the inner circle of all-time great defensive tackles like Aaron Donald and Mean Joe Green, he's still a guy who has put out a resume that I believe is worthy of Pro Football Hall of Fame conversation. And honestly, as the best defensive player on a dynastic team, it may take him a long time, but I think eventually he will be a Hall of Famer. 8 sacks the last season and a half. He had 10.5 in 2023. He had 15.5 in 2022. Chris Jones getting old has been a big deal. He is still impactful. You can still see him impact games, win his matchups, help with the run. He is not, by any stretch, unplayable, but he is not a dominator. George Karlaftis, again, he's now the guy this year that Chris Jones was last year, where the raw numbers love George. His win rate, his number of quick pressures, all of those things, big time stuff. He lives in the company of the elite when it comes to how many pressures he's racked up, how little time he's winning his matchups in, those kinds of things. But he's only got 5 sacks. Charles Omenihu and Mike Dana, how old would you guess those guys are? Real quick, if you don't know off the top of your head, and I'll confess, I didn't know off the top of my head. They're both 28. And that doesn't feel old. Definitely doesn't feel old for me sitting behind this mic at 39 years old. But those are players that are clearly declining in production. Mike Dana has just been getting cardio this year. He has 4 tackles. 4 tackles. How you do that much running around? How are you on the field for that many snaps as a defensive lineman? And you have 4 solo tackles. 3 quarterback hits in 10 games. How does that happen? The defensive backs are not as prolific sacking the quarterback as they were in 2022 and 2023. L'Jarius Sneed's blitzing ability has not been replaced. Justin Reid's blitzing ability this year has not been replaced. Brian Cook is not an impactful blitzer. Jaden Hicks is not an impactful blitzer. I'm still not sure what it is Shamari Connor does well. He's had his moments. I know Pro Football Focus has given him some nice post-game grades, but every time I notice Shamari Connor, it's not for something good. Like getting cooked over the top by CeeDee Lamb on a must-stop drive for the defense on Thanksgiving. But those guys, they are not impactful blitzers. The defensive back sacks this year, Connor's got one, McDuffie's got one, Watson's got one. McDuffie, I think, is a good slot blitzer. She doesn't play in the slot all the time, which might be something the Chiefs, again, need to reevaluate moving forward, particularly if they're going to pay him a whole gob of money, which I still think they probably ought to. Linebackers only have 3.5 sacks this year. Tranquil's got 2. Leo Chanel has a sack and a half. That means no sacks for Nick Bolton. Not really, again, his stock and trade, but he does blitz quite a bit. He is part of those blitz packages coming up the middle, coming up the A gap, not getting home. So where did the Chiefs' sacks go? It's clear that a lot of things are happening. There's no one easy answer to that question. The first thing is Chris Jones is no longer all-pro Chris Jones. And you got to believe the Chiefs anticipated at some point that was going to happen, but maybe are a little bit behind the curve on figuring out how to replace his pass rush production. Karlaftis, I thought, had a chance to be a double-digit sack guy this year based on the way he finished last season and has some metrics that suggest he maybe should be a double-digit sack guy, but that hasn't happened. The defensive backs aren't as good as a group at blitzing. McDuffie's in the wrong position. L'Jarius Sneed isn't coming through that door, and Justin Reid isn't coming through that door. And the interior pass pressure. Again, Jones taking a big step back in that department was huge, but so was the loss of Turk Wharton. 6.5 sacks last season from a defensive tackle. That's a serious number. Now, you get spoiled for years of having Chris Jones, and you think, wow, yeah, that's a big number for a defensive tackle, 15.5. That's a big number for anybody. That was a luxury that the Chiefs had for all those years. Generally, if you have a defensive tackle, rotational defensive tackle, and they're getting you 5, 6.5 sacks, that's a hell of a year. That gets you a nice payday. And it did get Turk Wharton a nice payday. But the Chiefs never replaced that. Jerry Tillery, I'm sure he's still on the team and collecting a nice paycheck, and I don't know what he's doing with the money. I hope he's not wasting it. It's not my business. He is not doing a whole lot that makes you notice that he's still a member of the Kansas City Chiefs. Norman Lott got hurt. That was a bummer. I think they were thinking that Norman Lott could be productive as a rookie. He did have a sack early in the year. He got hurt in training camp, though, fell behind the curve in terms of preparation, and then got really hurt, and we're not going to see him again until next year. So it's a confluence of factors. Age, absolutely. Loss of some skill sets in the defensive backfield, that's part of it. I don't know and can't say for certain if the Chiefs' blitz packages are too predictable. I don't know that you get to that point necessarily. I'm not ready to jump all the way to that conclusion. Cowboys sure did pick them all up, though, on Thanksgiving. How many times did the Chiefs send 6 or send a 5th rusher from a strange angle and that rusher didn't get home? Happened all the time. So it comes back to that. Chris Jones isn't himself. Charles Omenihu isn't the 2023 version of himself. Mike Dana isn't the 2023 version of himself. I understand why the Chiefs thought that those guys could produce at that level. It's not like they're that old. They're 28. But Omenihu's dealt with a lot of injuries. Dan, I can't explain. That's a strange one to me. Like, I don't think that was a guy we ever thought was going to break out with an 8, 9, 10 sack season, but you felt like you could get some reliable rotational defensive end play for Mike Dana for years. That's why they gave him a 3-year contract and hasn't done anything. It's a lot of contracts like that on this Chiefs team. Noah Gray got a 3-year extension, and they don't throw in the ball anymore. So you can blame misevaluation. You can blame just getting old. You can blame the natural talent drain that every dynasty goes through because you can't replace guys that you can no longer pay or that age out when you're drafting 31st and 32nd in the draft every year. Some of this is just the cycle of NFL life. But the sacks for the Chiefs are gone. Sack Nation has been sacked. It has been ravaged. And I don't know if there's any rebuilding it. There better be. There's going to be opportunities. They will play against some bad offensive lines down the stretch. Starting on Sunday against Houston. Houston's offensive line stinks. The Chargers' offensive line stinks. The Titans' offensive line stinks. The Raiders' offensive line stinks. So the only decent offensive line, it's better than decent. Denver's good up front. That's the only offensive line that you would look at on paper and say, boy, yeah, you're in for a long day at the office against those guys. But the burden of proof is on the CEO and the rest of Sack Nation that they can start making some plays happen, that they can start getting off the field on third down, that they can put teams behind the sticks instead of making it an easy day for them where you're living in third downs and converting them over and over and over again because the Chiefs don't have enough of a pass rush threat. It is the single biggest reason I think the Chiefs find themselves where they are. Another big reason, Andy Reid's gone yellow-bellied on third down, or fourth down, rather. We'll talk about that next. We're going to talk about K-State's miserable performance here in a little bit. Lots more to come. We're just getting started on this Tuesday edition of 580 Sports Talk. Thanks for being with us on WIBW. 3:35, just getting started here on 580 Sports Talk. Haven't heard from the Bard in a while in the YouTube comments. Every time we get a limerick from the Bard, we got to check in. It's not a rosy picture right now in the local sports landscape as the Bard lays it out. The Chiefs' descent's fully alive. The Wildcats have taken a dive. Darryn P is still out. Hawks football has doubts. Will March 26th just arrive? That, of course, is opening day for the Kansas City Royals, who still don't have a corner outfield, and they're floating the idea of trading Cole Reagans for a bat. I'm going to tell you right now, if they trade Cole Reagans for Jarren Duran, I will have a crash out on these airwaves that will rival anything you heard from Brendan during the worst of KU football. I promise you that. I will crash out so hard. I don't think they're going to do that, but my point still stands. Anyhow, we talked just a moment ago about the Chiefs' lack of sacks, lack of pressure this season, and why I think tangibly that's the biggest reason why they found themselves at 6-6. Beyond the intangible stuff that we like to talk about, like maybe this team is just worn down, maybe they're stale, maybe they just need a reset or a reboot or something like that. Those are really ambiguous, and there may be, and I think there probably is some truth to all of that, but the cold, hard facts of what goes on the football field are the Chiefs don't get to the quarterback enough. Here's another problem, though, that has cropped up recently. Maybe you've seen this if you're on social media. You've got to be like really on social media, like me and the rest of the crew here, maybe to have come across this. But there's the idea of I got to make sure I call it right. The surrender index. The surrender index, you can find them on X, surrender_index. I don't know if they're on any other form of social media. But point of fact, the surrender index hasn't actually posted on X for a very long time. So maybe that's not what we're looking for here. Oh, well, they had to change their handle. They're at surrender_IDX90. The surrender index basically tells you how cowardly it was to punt in a certain game situation. The Chiefs showed up on the surrender index twice in their loss to Dallas. The first time was early in the third quarter. They were down by 3. They punted on 4th and 5 from the Dallas 49. It was in the 91st percentile of cowardly punts of the 2025 season. Then they did it again on their next drive. They had 4th and 4 from the Dallas 44. And that's a spot this year where it feels like the Chiefs have gone for it quite a bit. And they did not go for it on Thanksgiving. And that punt ranks not only in the 98th percentile of cowardly punts of this season, that's in the 96th percentile of cowardly punts since 1999. That is a whole lot of cowardice on display with those decisions. And Andy Reid said in his Monday press conference, yeah, you know what? Put those on me. I got those wrong. Yeah, you did. And that has to stop because 2 reasons. Number one, this is not, as presently constructed, a Chiefs defense that you can trust to go get a stop when they need to get a stop. How many times have they done that this year? How many times has the Chiefs defense gotten the stop they had to get against a good team in a close game? Has it happened? Have they done it? I guess the 4th quarter of the Indianapolis game. That's it. That's the list. It's the end of the Indianapolis game when Daniel Jones had a broken leg. So, number one, you cannot trust this defense to get off the field. Number two, you are costing yourself win probability in these close games by punting the ball away instead of asking literally Patrick Mahomes to make a play. Ben Baldwin, whose statistical work I have mentioned quite often on this program, he runs the website RBSDM, short for runningbacksdon'tmatter.com. He has a graph on his social media platforms today about the win probability lost per game by teams punting or kicking field goals in what should be go for it situations. How much of a chance are you costing your team to win on a per game basis? There are two teams costing themselves 3.5% chance to win per game, and they are the Texans and the Steelers. Steelers are number 1, Texans are number 2. The Chiefs are third. The Chiefs are costing themselves 3.5 points of win probability per game on these fourth down decisions that Andy Reid has made this year. Kicking instead of going for it. Putting the game on your defense or on Matt Araiza to play coffin corner punter, which he's better at this year, but still not good. It's not like you've got prime Britton Colquitt dropping it inside the 10 every time. Or Harrison Butker, who, again, he's been better since his rough start to the season, but still not the same Harrison Butker. Only two other teams in the NFL are hurting themselves with their fourth down decisions more than the Chiefs are. And those other two teams, you know who they don't have at quarterback? Patrick friggin' Mahomes. You know who's right behind the Chiefs? The Bengals, who played backup quarterbacks all year because Burrow's been hurt. The Vikings, who have maybe the worst quarterback situation in the NFL now because everybody in the world knows J.J. McCarthy can't play. And the Broncos, who have Bo Nix. And look, I don't know what to tell the people who are all in on Bo Nix. Just if you watch the Broncos, you know what a team looks like that's afraid of their quarterback, and the Broncos are one of those teams. So that's the company that the Chiefs are keeping. The team ahead of them, the Texans, they've had C.J. Stroud in and out of the lineup and a terrible offensive line, so their offense stinks. And the Steelers have had ancient Aaron Rodgers, and their offense stinks. The Chiefs should not be in a group of teams that are turtling on fourth down because their quarterbacks or their offenses suck. That's wrong. If Andy Reid doesn't fix it, that's going to be one of the biggest reasons they don't make the playoffs this year. We'll take a timeout. If you didn't think I had more outrage stored up, let's talk K-State basketball when we come back on 580 Sports Talk. 346 on 580 Sports Talk. Thanks for being here on this Tuesday. You heard it here last night on 580 WIBW and FM 104.9. K-State 66, Bowling Green 82. It still doesn't quite compute. I'll give you the gory numbers first, the gory details from the stat sheet that really go the furthest towards explaining what happened. Combined last night, PJ Haggerty, Nate Johnson, and Abdi Bashir, who are the three best scorers for that basketball team, at least three best guard scorers. They went 9 for 34 from the field, which is bad. That's about 30%. They were 6 of 20 from three-point range. That is 30%. And they were 4 for 9 at the line, and that was all Haggerty. Bashir's not getting to the line a bunch, but like Nate Johnson can get to the line and didn't. Nate Johnson sleptwalked through that game. Your three best guys play like that, you're going to have a hard time beating anybody. Anybody. Even a team like Bowling Green, who like they might be one of the better teams in the MAC this year. No idea. Right now, Ken Palm says they're the second best team in the MAC. But you aren't beating anybody when your best players don't play well. You're not. Your best guys have to play well. That's basketball for you. And Jerome Tang was as frustrated, was as upset, was as, and this is his word, not mine, pissed off as I think I've ever heard him in a post game. He talked about they switched to a 4-guard lineup last night. They started David Castillo. They effectively benched Elias Rapiek. They played him like 7 minutes. Kostic didn't play at all. Buka didn't play at all. I don't know. The Europeans go party too hard on Thanksgiving. They all got punished. Like, I don't know what the deal was there. But they went to a 4-guard lineup, which, okay, fine. I've talked about when they were 5-0, when they had that spell where they were scoring a bunch of points, they did a lot of good things with a 4-guard lineup. The problem with their 4-guard lineup is it's not good on defense because they don't put any pressure on teams at the rim. Like, you can get to the rim on their guards. Their guards are not physical enough defensively. They do not have enough of a rim protecting threat. Kamari McGriff is a good player, but he's not that. They are too easy to play offense against when they go 4 guards. And they are especially too easy to play against when they don't share the basketball, the ball doesn't move, when they don't rebound, give themselves second opportunities or transition opportunities. And they didn't do either of those things last night. And that's an effort and a focus and a give a damn that, look, you got that or you don't. And Jerome Tang was irate with his team not showing those things last night. He should have been. And he pointed out accurately in the postgame that, you know, in basketball, stuff happens. Like, sometimes you get threed, right? It felt like for a lot of years when KU was really, really good, like 1 seed good every year, the only way they would ever lose is if a team just shot the crap out of it from 3-point range. And sometimes, like, that's modern basketball, right? 40-minute game, team shoots way above their heads from 3, and sometimes they're going to get you. That's what Bowling Green did last night. They came in averaging 7 made threes a game on about 34% shooting. They were 12 of 26 from deep last night. There is an element of tipping your cap. But this is not an on-court schematic thing that I want to talk about. It's the optics of it that you can't have if you're Jerome Tang and the Wildcats right now. The Kansas State athletics fan base is deeply disaffected right now. And you can tell me if I'm wrong, K-State fans, but I know I'm not. Because despite my deep hatred of doing so, I do check the message boards. And I do float back to K-State X, K-State Twitter, if you were. So I know what you all are thinking. And I know what you all are saying. And I know how you all feel. And right now, that is a K-State fan base. I hear from you on the show, too. Hear from you in the text line. Hear from you in the comments on YouTube. This is a fan base that feels like they are seeing a product in the revenue sports that is well short, not only of their expectations, but what things ought to be at Kansas State. And football drives the bus, and they've had 2 straight disappointing seasons in football. And that, I mean, everything filters from that. but they've also had 2 straight disappointing seasons in basketball. And right now they look headed for a third. And that didn't look like the case after they beat Mississippi State in Kansas City 2 Thursdays ago. They were 5-0. They were scoring 90 points a game. And there was that undertone of, man, everything looks great as long as the ball's going through the basket. Can they win a slugfest? Can they win when they score in the 60s? Can they win when the shots don't fall? No. It looks like we have our answer, and that answer right now is no. They've got Seton Hall next, another major conference team. The Big East is a major college basketball conference. Not a great team, probably about the same level of a Nebraska or a Mississippi State. Not as good as Indiana, the best team they played, but also better than Bowling Green. So what kind of effort are we going to see from Kansas State moving forward? And it continues a trend. Each of the last 3 seasons, we have seen Kansas State absolutely sleepwalk their way through non-conference games. And a lot of times they've had more talent or just enough talent or play just well enough to win those games by narrow margins. And they got away with it against Tulsa this year. I won't put the Cal game in that bucket. They dominated that game. Cal hit a bunch of ridiculous shots late, but they dominated that game like they dominated the Mississippi State game. But the Tulsa game was an example of that this year, and now we have another example of it, and it turns out being a 16-point loss. And for a fan base that is already kind of checked out on this current iteration of Kansas State basketball and is starting to check out on their head coach, if they're not careful, we're going to look back at that night, last night's performance, as the point of no return for the Jerome Tang era of Kansas State basketball. There's a lot of season left, and they can rewrite their story, but that was ugly. That was not lose to Fort Hays State ugly. Like that was the obvious point of no return for the Bruce Weber era, right? Like that ain't this and this ain't that. But it might be. It might be if this is the portent for what's coming moving forward for a program that last night played like they didn't care. They rolled out the ball and didn't make any shots. And when the shots stopped falling, they completely disengaged. And they let themselves get dog-walked on their home floor in a snowstorm. Jerome Tang made damn sure to point out that the people that went to that game last night care a lot about that program because they braved the conditions to go and see that basketball game. And that's the reward you give them? No, people are going to check out. People are going to disengage. And it's going to be really, really hard to get them back. Really, really hard. And that's the same conversation we've had each of the last 2 seasons in non-conference play with the Wildcats. And they've not recovered from those the last 2 years. And this might be a hard one to recover from, too. We'll take one last break, come back, wrap up this hour of 580 Sports Talk. Quick final segment here. Some takes on that K-State basketball loss last night from the text line. 785. Couldn't finish listening to the game. It was disgusting. From the 785. Went to the game last night. They played no defense. They played like individuals, not as a team. They'll never win playing like that. Agreed 100% with those. John in the YouTube comment says it was nice to hear Tang take the stance he did during the press conference after a season of Kleiman's press conference. It was a refreshing take. Yeah, if you were waiting for Jerome Tang to give you excuses, there were not any in that press conference. It was all fury, all righteous fury. And I loved the answer to the question. Somebody asked, well, what's the message to your team after this? And he says, see you at 8 o'clock tomorrow morning. Like, that's all you can stand to say to your team after a loss like that. Coming up at the 4 o'clock hour, we'll preview KU UConn and hear from Michael Swain of Fog.net. Coming up on 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Now, number 2, 580 Sports Talk on this Tuesday afternoon. And the gang's all here on the Sports Voice of Kansas, 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, and in living color on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk, and our Facebook page, WIBW News. Hi, I'm Dan Lucero. Brendan Dworzinski's in the box.
What's up? What's up, dude?
Spencer Dupuis is here.
I'm on this side of the glass, as I told you off air, for like the first time in like 2 weeks.
And we're also joined by our biggest fan. That joke's just for the viewers. That one's just for the people watching us on YouTube and Facebook right now.
We've got a high angle shot of the studio today.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, we get a little different perspective. You can see my foot, my incessant tapping from the anxiety that plagues me every day.
See, that's why I'm glad I've got like the full horseshoe over on this side, because I don't know if people notice it when I'm over on the other side of the glass either, but like I am in motion a lot while I am talking. There's a lot of foot tapping going on. It's happening right now, in fact.
Yeah, I just have crippling anxiety. I can't stop it even if I wanted to. The negative here is you can't see Greg in the ag studio.
No, Greg is still in the ag studio, but yeah, he's cut off. That was not an editorial decision. That was just how we rigged the camera today. So anyway, yeah, gang's all here today.
After it fell for the umpteenth time.
For a little while, then I'm off to Seaman High School for some high school basketball. Can you believe we're there already? It is time for our first 580 Preps Tuesday Night Hoops doubleheader of the season opener for 2025-26. Seaman playing host to Piper. 2 huge games in the United Kansas Conference. Both teams are ranked in the top 10, Seaman boys and girls, Piper boys and girls. So it's going to be a great set of games. Pregame approximately 5:15. Girls game starts, the action, boys game to follow.
Not only men, you'll also see girls basketball tonight. So it'll be C Women High School as well.
Oh, my God. Really? How long have you been on the air here and you've never made that joke until now? How long have you been sitting on that one?
Not long, honestly. I don't have a whole lot of depth to what's going on in there. It's got to come quickly or I'm going to forget it.
So I'll be out of here in a little while. Still to come this hour on the show, we're going to talk a little KU hoops as they get set to take on UConn tonight. No Bucket Jones for the Jayhawks. We'll get there. Also, another round of What Is Wrong With You, and our Jayhawk insider, Michael Swain of Fog.net, will join us at the bottom of this hour for Jayhawk Weekly, as he does every Tuesday on this show. Want to hear from you on the program today? Get at us on the text line, 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429. You can also interact with us if you are watching the show live on YouTube or Facebook. Leave a comment on Facebook or jump in the live chat on our YouTube channel, 580 Sports Talk. And go subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, because when we get to 900 subscribers, we're doing 580 Sports Talk Idol here on the show. That's going to be a good time.
We're getting close.
We are. We're getting closer, day by day, brick by brick. We're building our way to that 900 subscriber stretch goal. So help us get there today. Go subscribe at 580 Sports Talk. It's been a lively chat today, and I did want to get to something that they've been discussing in the chat today. It is breaking within the last 15 to 20 minutes, being reported by multiple sources that it is now expected that BYU head football coach Kalani Sitake will remain at BYU. There had been some significant rumors and a lot of smoke around Penn State being very interested in making Sitake their next head football coach. I said on the show yesterday when I talked about it in headlines, I didn't think that was real from the Sitake angle. I felt like it was all leverage. Kalani Sitake makes $3 million a year, made $3 million a year this year. That's pretty low by Big 12 head coaching standards. That's less than A.J. Dibansa is making this year to play for the BYU men's basketball team. Even if it is true, and I've read suggestions as much, that the money at BYU is more invested in basketball than it is in football.
Yep.
There's still a lot of desire to be really good at football. And if Sitake's not your head coach, you just don't have a lot of literal card-carrying Mormon options to replace him. So you've got to keep that guy. So I always felt like this was Sitake trying to leverage what would be a desperate BYU trying to keep him, because he's a lot more valuable to them than he would be to Penn State. And it looks like that even if that wasn't what happened, that's going to be the end result.
So for the record, because I read the same thing, friend of the program, Matt Brown from Extra Points, he wrote about this on Blue Sky earlier this week. Dan's not joking when he says card-carrying member of the church.
Like, quite literal.
He broke down because Matt Brown himself is ex-Mormon, but he was a card-carrying member. You literally have to be not only just go to church, go to the temple, but you need to have like every year or every other year interviews with elders in your home ward and be signed off on, and you literally get a card and be that kind of member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints to be qualified to be a head coach at BYU, which leaves, as far as I am aware, 2 people currently coaching in major college football outside of Kalani Sitake. There's him, who's a very devout guy and loves his alma mater, BYU. There's Bronco Mendenhall, who has already coached there and left for Virginia, of all places, a few years before Sitake. Mm-hmm. And Ken Niumatalolo, who I think the world of, who also is mired deepest in the bowels of football hell coaching at San Jose State.
You did forget one. Kyle Whittingham.
There's also Kyle Whittingham, who did go to BYU.
If he's leaving Utah, it's for a beach. It's for a resort somewhere in Mexico and a margarita. I guess not a margarita.
No, not him.
Virgin daiquiri.
When you get a big old Arnold Palmer. Yeah. If he left Utah for BYU, there would be a schism the likes of which the church has not seen since the 1840s. So yes, I agree. I think my feeling on the situation differs a little bit from you. In terms of never wanted to leave BYU, I agree wholeheartedly there. Like, I think Kalani Sitake would love to just be at BYU forever and be the BYU, surpass Lavelle Edwards in terms of prestige and wins and all of those things. I think he would love to do that. But what I have read is twofold. One, the money thing. Like, BYU coaches are not generally paid above market value. You would think, because the church is known, stereotypically or not, for having a lot of money and a lot of very rich donors and boosters.
Those temples are pretty big. And
they are.
The guy who owns all the sports teams in Salt Lake City, card carrying.
Yes. By the way, if you've never been to Salt Lake City, they are bigger in person. Oh, my word. They are ornate, to say the least. But they don't spend in that regard. They spend a lot on NIL when that first, became law that you could spend for players. Spend a lot of money there, the donors did. But coaches are not often compensated in that way. The other thing that I have read, though, and the thing that I understand and why I think this was a little bit more serious, like, what more could you have done the last 2 years if you're BYU? They are 11-1. And they have to go up against a top 5 team in the country and almost certainly have to beat them to get an automatic bid to get into the playoff. You are in a power conference. You only lost 1 game to a team in the top 5, and you still are very much in danger of being on the outside looking in. You go to Penn State, you go 10-2, or in a crappy year for college football, maybe even 9-3, and you're in. That feels a little bit different. And I can understand thinking like, look, I want to be here. I love being here. But I can't have both of these things working against me. I cannot be behind the 8 ball every year. Like, their team this year is good. Maybe a little bit fluky, but they are no doubt good.
I think they're better than they were last year, to be honest.
I agree. I agree 100% with that take. And still, we are barely on the fringes of in the playoff window right now. Also, I am getting paid less than coaches who are worse than me in the same conference. Like, both of those things hard to reconcile. I think this was a little bit more, if I can use a little cross-sport analogy here, I think this was a little bit closer to Jerome Tang flirting with Arkansas than it is Mike Gundy flirting with Tennessee. Okay. Mike Gundy very blatantly was never going to leave Stillwater unless they fired him. He that was a ploy every time, and everyone knew it. And at some point, I think Oklahoma State knew it as well. Arkansas fans still to this day talk about how they nearly had Jerome Tang instead of John Calipari. Like, that was very, very close to really happening until K-State stepped up at the last minute. The fallout of that, we can talk about it some other time. I think this was a little bit more serious, but this is also an example of BYU boosters and donors do have money. They got the crumble cookie guy. You ever bought one of those? You could buy 3/5 of an offensive line with a half a dozen cookies. All right, they got some dough, and if not intentional. And if they wanted to keep him, I think they could. They obviously could find a way, and I'm glad they're keeping him. I love Kalani Sitake. He's an awesome dude and an awesome coach.
The Jayhawker points out in the YouTube comments, Marriott Hotels is also a major BYU donor. So every sports writer and all of their Marriott points
have all been contributing.
Yes, everybody contributing to the Kalani Sitake contract extension fund.
That's true. They play in the Marriott Center.
Yeah. No extension has been announced, but you got to believe that is imminent. There was an extension announced today for Joey McGuire at Texas Tech. So both teams in the Big 12 championship game are locking in their coaches for the long haul. Penn State's going to hire the substitute teacher, and that ain't going to work. I can tell you that right now.
I know a couple of Penn State fans on social media who have been like, no, hire Terry. He's the guy. Look how the players have responded. Of course, people respond well when the babysitter is over. You get cookies and ice cream for dinner. You don't have bedtime. It's Saturday every day. Of course they love him.
Never.
What happens when you have a test the next day? What happens when you've got, your big math test? Oh, here comes number 1, Ohio State. And then you fail again. Then what? So good luck, Penn State.
Yeah,
because that's
all.
What are they going to do? They don't have any other options.
No, they really don't seem to have any.
They could have hired Pat Fitzgerald.
That would have been dumb too. I went off about that yesterday.
I know. I heard.
Leader of men, Pat Fitzgerald, who didn't know people were getting sexually hazed in his program. But no, that's the leader of men you have to put in charge of your program because nobody else wins at Northwestern except the guy immediately hired to replace him that's been to a bowl 2 of the last 3 years.
The 2 outcomes with Pat Fitzgerald, and I spent a long time being a fan to some degree of Pat Fitzgerald's team. They're Chicago's Big Ten team, obviously. Yes. There are 2 outcomes, and I understand that he got off, so to speak. One, either he knew and lied and got off on a technicality, or 2, he is a complete moron.
Yeah, if you don't,
and that's the generous outcome.
If you don't know that stuff is going on, and that was his line throughout the legal process, that he had no idea, and he was sad to hear that players were being hazed, physically and sexually assaulted in his program, and he just had no idea that was happening. Why would you make that guy your football coach? If he's so clueless that he doesn't know what his players are doing outside of the white lines, why should he be your football coach? So
why would Michigan State, of all programs, be the one who said, yeah, remember what happened with Mel Tucker? Anyway.
Remember what happened with Mark D'Antonio's program, the kind of people he was bringing in? Remember, does the name Larry Nassar ring a bell? No, man. Michigan State, they don't care. They don't care. They want to beat Michigan. That's all. Their whole existence is we want to beat Michigan.
Beaten Michigan since George W. Bush was in office.
Yeah, he beat Rich Rod. He beat Rich Rod in his first year. He was 0-9 otherwise.
I
know. That's the joke.
I don't get it. I'm not surprised Fitzgerald ended up with a job. I figured it was going to be Chris Creighton was going to move on and he'd end up at Eastern Michigan or something. I did not think Creighton's probably never going to leave there, but I did not think it'd be another Big Ten. That's nuts. Ryan at DC and bring in Fitzgerald. No one would ever think about it again. Okay, sure. Michigan State? Crazy. Good luck.
Let's talk a little college basketball, shall we? Big one tonight at Allen Fieldhouse. The Kansas Jayhawks, the UConn Huskies. Number 21 in the country, hosting number 5 in the country. And once again, the Jayhawks will be without the services of Darryn Peterson. Bill Self releasing a statement earlier today. It's very funny that he had to release a statement to announce this. They put it on letterhead on social media and everything. Darryn is not going to play tonight. He is very close. He has worked his butt off, but he is still not 100%. He is day to day. And kind of looked at this as the target date for his return. There were some positive developments for him. It sounded like during the week of the Players era when he didn't play. A lot of hope he'd be back for a showpiece game tonight, but unfortunately, that's not going to be the case. Kansas is 4-1 without him, including 3 wins at the Players era Invitational. And Good wins. And
with one, I'd argue, great win.
It has, I think, helped the guys who are not Darryn Peterson on this team gain a little bit of confidence, grow in their roles. Like you saw throughout the Players era Invitational, guys just start to play better. Melvin Council played a lot better. Marco Jackson, the best game of his career against Tennessee. But the other thing that has happened that has been very encouraging, maybe the most encouraging thing long-term, because eventually those guys are going to have to return to being like, they're going to have less of the ball, fewer shots. All those things are going to be true, fewer minutes in some cases when Darryn Peterson is back healthy. And they'll have to sort of readjust to what those roles ask of them. I actually think Trey White will have the easiest sort of translation, what he's been doing now to what he'll be asked to do. The same like energy stuff, just maybe a little less of it in the box score. But Flory Badunga is dominating games. And that was the vision that I have to believe KU had when he got the money basically to keep him out of the portal, keep him from ending up somewhere else, bring him back for his sophomore year. The vision was not just that Flory was a complimentary big man, but that he could be a dominant big man, that he could change games, that he could be a volume scorer, that he would be a rebounder, he'd stay on the floor and out of foul trouble. And that will still, I think always, for every big man, it'll always be a bit of a sticking point for him. But Flory cranking it up a notch during this stretch while Peterson has been out, I think that's the most positive development for this Jayhawk team. And he's going to have an opportunity tonight against a UConn team that's never got a shortage of good big men, and will be another test for him.
Yeah, it's going to be a humongous test, and this is a UConn team that has not, in recent history, has not exactly been bullied constantly by big men either. So it's going to be a huge test, and I'm excited to see what he's able to do with it. I'm excited to see how KU players, the rest of the KU roster, I should say, are going to play off of that, how they can compensate if Flory does get in foul trouble, because that is something that you do have to worry about with Flory Badunga. You have always had to in his, albeit brief, career to this point. But it's going to be a fun test for him. You've got to have some other guard really step up here. I don't know about, Melvin Council was incredible in Las Vegas, and in the game against Tennessee, he really took over in the second half of that game and was just awesome. A little bit inefficient, but man, he was awesome. I don't know against a team like UConn that is going to push you around a little bit defensively if this is a great matchup 100% for Melvin Council as a lead creator for you. But look, you got to get tested at some point. I understand that this is not a fully capable KU team at this moment. So what they look like now is ideally not what they're going to look like for big 12 games and going into the NCAA tournament and all of those things. So I think it's a big test. I do not expect KU to win. I know KU's only been an underdog twice at Allen Fieldhouse under Bill Self and won outright both times. I understand all of those things. UConn's really good. KU is missing the number one pick in next year's draft. Like, it is what it is. And the team without Darryn Peterson is good. It is scrappy. I don't think they're great, and that is going to make this very difficult. Could they win? Sure. Is it likely? No. But I am excited to see how KU handles that situation anyway. And it's a different situation than when they played Duke, for example, shorthanded. It's a different kind of environment. Can they feed off that Allen Fieldhouse energy? I hope the crowd freaking brings it tonight.
Yeah, it feels to me like it's going to have to be one of those building wins that Bill Self talks about.
And that's fine. They all show up in the box score the same way.
The big man that Badunga will be banging bodies with tonight, this is a familiar name if you've followed K-State transfer drama over the year, Terrace Reid.
Yeah.
And he's having a really nice year. 15.5 points, 8 boards a game, leads UConn in both of those categories. Somehow Alex Caravan is still in school. I did not know that was the case.
Crazy.
But, yeah, they got 4 double figures. They're really good. And they get the young point guard, DeMary, who's averaging 6 assists per game. Solo ball's a playmaker. Caravan's a lethal shooter. Like, they have all the pieces. They're not
good.
Yeah, they're not number 5 by accident. It is going to take something beyond what KU even summoned in the players era to beat this team. But at Allen Fieldhouse, all things are possible, right?
I would like to share one quick Darryn Peterson take, because I have seen a lot of vitriol on social media today. Like, this is crazy. It's been going on so long. Our guy Jay Hawker points out on the YouTube, he's been day to day for a month.
Really, aren't we all day to day?
We are. And I saw someone say, I hope the KU beat writers get on Self in the post game about who is the one keeping Darryn Peterson out. Maybe it's just that I'm getting older. Maybe it's that I've got a nearly 1-year-old at home that's taking up a lot of my attention. Maybe it's being worked to the bone behind the scenes here at work every day. I don't have the energy to get upset about these things anymore. Like, When he plays, he plays. And if he's hurt, he's hurt. If he's milking it, then that's a bummer, but whatever. He'll be out there eventually. If it's Bill Self being extra cautious, whatever, fine. This is the situation KU is in. I'm not going to get upset about like the crap that I felt a lot differently about the Remy Martin situation in 21-22 than I do about Darryn Peterson today. Like, all right, when he's out there, he's out there. Great. Well, I can't wait till he's healthy. Until then, whatever.
We'll take a break. Come back with What Is Wrong With You on 580 Sports Talk. Michael Swain of Fog.net coming up in just a bit. First, it's time for What Is Wrong With You? Two new stories competing today. Our Monday champion, a St. Petersburg, Florida man who took a Tesla Cybertruck for a test drive and then took it home and beat the hell out of it, causing approximately $20,000 in damages to the vehicle. Just
a vehicle that records what's going on around it.
Yeah, a vehicle with surveillance, its own surveillance. There was also underwear found in the flares of the front fender, men's underwear. Don't know what that's about. frankly
don't want
wanna.
to.
Yeah.
No.
All right, we got 2 news stories today. Brendan, you've got a story today.
All right, we're going to Miami-Dade County. Oh, it can only get bad from here. A 72-year-old Southwest Miami-Dade priest was arrested after a confrontation with a woman dropping off donations at a church, which escalated into a physical struggle. Jesus Gabriel Saldana was charged with burglary of an occupied conveyance, battery on a person 65 or older, and misdemeanor criminal mischief following the incident on November 6th at St. Kevin Catholic Church. First of all, St. Kevin is very funny.
Kevin is really funny.
Police say the victim arrived at the church at 11:40 a.m. to donate items and attempted to photograph her donations alongside a politically themed poster. All right. First of all, righteous move here by the priest. That's not cool. Come on. However, it does get worse. According to the arrest report, Saldana, identified as the church priest, was collecting donations. He told the woman she was not allowed to take pictures and ordered her to leave. When she asked for her donations back, a verbal argument ensued. According to authorities, then, the victim began photographing Saldana, prompting him to lunge at her. Bystanders separated the two, but Saldana then allegedly reached into the woman's vehicle without her permission for unknown reasons. The struggle continued as the victim got in the driver's seat, and police say Saldana battered her while attempting to pull her out of the vehicle. During the altercation, he ripped off the rearview mirror and damaged the vehicle's gear selector.
Wow.
Investigators say the woman, who has a history of cardiac issues, not sure why that's relevant, later drove herself to a hospital and was admitted. Saldana also reached into her vehicle again and dumped out her purse on the ground while searching for her phone. He turned himself into the police on Saturday. He was arrested and taken to a correctional center. The Archdiocese of Miami did release a statement. They are just going to stay out of it and operate business as normal.
So obviously, I think the priest may have overreacted physically a little bit, but the woman showing up and trying to do a photo op alongside a politically themed poster, I got to tell you this: I don't particularly care which church it is that you go to, but I'm sure that church would tell you that their God is neither Republican nor Democrat. So just donate and don't make it about you.
And then to say, I want it back if I can't get my Facebook AI slot photo here.
Yeah.
Come on.
No, actually, I am Jesus Gabriel Saldana. I'm with him. I side with him.
I think he was in the right conceptually, but then you can't assault a woman.
Yeah.
We got the same news source, WSVN Miami, for my story today. We got a threesome in the Winn-Dixie parking lot, which is my favorite Florida Georgia Line song. 3 people were arrested after authorities in the Florida Keys say they were found having sex while heavily intoxicated in a Winn-Dixie parking lot in the middle of the day. Well, naturally, it'd be 3 people. It's not Winn-Dickie after all. It is plural. Deputies were called to the grocery store lot around 12 p.m. on Saturday, where they found all 3 individuals engaged in sexual acts. All were taken to jail. 45-year-old Sharon Helen Zaplinski was arrested for apparently the second time for similar public conduct in the last 3 months. 43-year-old Marshall Adam Lowry and 59-year-old Michael McDonald Howard, I'm gonna be there, was charged with unlawful exposure of sexual organs. They had to joke a minute with this story, man. I kept them flying there. All right, those are our stories. Who we got? In flagrante at noon on a Saturday in the parking lot
at the Winn-Dixie.
I would say in front of God and everybody, but there is no God at Winn-Dixie.
No, apparently not.
Yeah, I'm going to go with yours.
I'm picking yours because of Winn-Dixie.
Winn-Dixie, again, plural. There were 2 of them. That's going to be our winner for today. Does that beat the Cybertruck guy? I think it does.
I think so.
Yeah. That's going to be our winner on What Is Wrong With You. All right, I'm out of here. I'm heading up to cover high school basketball at Seaman tonight. You'll hear from me later on. Michael Swain of Fog.net joins the program next year on 580 Sports Talk.
Joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline, as he does every single Tuesday here on 580 Sports Talk, it's Michael Swain joining us for Jayhawk Weekly. You can find all of his phenomenal work at fog.net, part of the 24/7 Sports Network. Michael, first things first, most importantly, how were your wife's desserts at Thanksgiving this past week?
They were incredible. We came home with a lot of food and there were no desserts to be found, which is pretty sad because I was banking on having some desserts here throughout the course of the weekend and this week, but alas, they all got eaten. So here I am looking at some turkey in the fridge, when I go to get lunch, and not the cookies and other desserts I was hoping to find.
Hey, I can sympathize. I think I have one more piece of pie left that I will be consuming tonight during the KU game. Speaking of the KU game, well, look at that segue. KU versus UConn tonight. Michael, how surprised are you that Darryn Peterson is a no-go tonight for KU?
I'd say I'm like a 7 out of 10. I'm pretty surprised. And, it's one of those things where, you can look at everything Bill Self has said about, him making progress and practicing and things like that. And I hadn't even heard over the weekend that Darryn was telling people he wanted to play and that he was maybe expecting to be able to play, but for one reason or another, he's not going to. And I think you can look at this game and say it's one of the marquee resume non-conference builders for KU, right? And KU's already failed previous to, in Duke, in North Carolina. And obviously KU beats Tennessee, which is good. But again, there are only so many chances you have in some of these non-con games to boost your seeding. And to not have Darryn tonight is a huge bummer for KU. And I think it's a bummer for a lot of KU fans that probably were thinking, hey, I'm going to, go to the UConn game. I'm going to watch Kansas play a top 5 team. Darryn maybe is going to make his return. And so, yeah, I'm pretty surprised. Am I entirely shocked? No, but it's one of those where just everything kind of seemed like it was trending in the direction of him being able to play. And then when the news comes out that he's not, you're definitely not expecting that.
Does this feel more to you like it's Darryn Peterson not feeling ready, maybe more like it's Bill Self being exceptionally cautious? And frankly, whatever the answer is, does it matter? Because I've seen that on social media today, like a mix of, I hope people are asking Bill Self who is holding Darryn Peterson out at this point, and also Peterson's just wasting our time. What is this? Does it matter what it is at this point? I feel like that's just kind of lashing out because of some frustration here. I don't know that there's any real value to that personally.
Not really, because here's the thing. And let's say theoretically I ask Bill Self that question today. You know what his answer is? I'm doing it. He's going to wear it. He's not going to throw anyone else under the bus because that doesn't look good for him, and it certainly doesn't make anyone else look good. And so, look, I think Self would love for his star player to play, especially if he has practiced and gone up and down in practice, right? And if your star player supposedly has told people that he wants to play, well, what's the third factor in this? It's the people who are advising Darryn. And sometimes those people are just as influential as the kid or the head basketball coach. And so that's kind of the feeling I get with this, is that that's probably where some of this is coming from. And it's understandable, right? He has the chance to be the number 1 pick in the draft. You know what's not going to let that happen? If he rips his hamstring off the bone. And regardless of if he's good to go or practice, that's going to be a fear that people have close to him. And so it's in those people's best interest to be as conservative as possible, even if the kid and maybe the head basketball coach are kind of ready for, him to play. So it's one of those where it's just when you have very good players with bright futures like this, sometimes it's good for the kid to have people close to him that have the biggest picture in mind, and the fact that he could be one of those, there are only so many players that have been number 1 picks in KU history. And there is still a big difference, dollars and cents wise, between the number 1 and the number 3 or number 4 pick. So those people probably have that in mind, where if you talk to anyone that's known Darryn, right, he wants to play basketball and he wants to fight through it and go out and hoop and help his team. So I don't think it's any sort of reflection of Darryn's going and saying, no, I'm not playing. I think it's one of those where there's probably people close to him. They're saying, hey, man, let's just give it another week, or let's give it a couple more days or something like that. And so I think that's probably more of what's going on here.
We're joined by Michael Swain. He covers the Kansas Jayhawks for Fog.net and does so better than anybody. If you're not a VIP, make sure you go and sign up. That's the best way to get all the inside scoops into what's going on at KU. You can also find him at mswain247. Joins us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. By the way, and Michael, you're right. I mean, it's two guys ever. It's Danny Manning and it's Andrew Wiggins, Maple Jordan. Those are the only two KU guys who have ever been the number one pick. So, I mean, you can understand that's a pretty lofty thing you could possibly be here if you're Darryn Peterson. Now, as for the game itself, no DP. He's not going to be able to go. So the rest of this group that just won 3 games and finished third at the Players Era Festival, had a really good showing for themselves and a big win over Tennessee. They get UConn tonight at home, understandably an underdog against the top 5 ranked UConn team, which once again is very, very good. What has to go right outside of everything? Like, what has to really click for this KU team for you to feel like, okay, if this falls into place and that falls into place, KU can still find a way to win this game?
Yeah, I think it's a game where KU defensively has to be super locked in. You know, you can look at the way that UConn it's year in, year out. Like every year, UConn's offense is just so fun to watch because it's executed to perfection. Guys are moving at the right times. They are like the way they run off balls. So like everything about it is just so crisp and looks so good. And so I think you saw some positive signs from KU at the Players Era on the defensive end of the floor, where they really were able to shut down some of the better guards, right, that they faced. But generally, like the way that they've guarded this year, they're allowing a lot more 3-point attempts, but they're contested and teams generally have not made them. Well, with this UConn team, KU's ball screen kind of switching 1 through 5, that's really going to be tested because there's so much movement that UConn has. And so if this is a game where, you know, we're talking post-game and it's, man, you know, KU is just so disjointed with the way they switched, with the way they handled things, you're talking about a loss. But if you're going afterward and saying, man, you know, KU was really locked in, they really switched well, they stuck with guys, made UConn attempt contested shots, you know, you're probably talking about a game that's either close or maybe even KU wins. So I think this game really does come down to defensively, how can KU play, right? Can Melvin Council really lead the way for KU from kind of the lead guard spot? But then you look at some of the front court guys, right? You know, Bryson Tiller against Alex Caravan. You look at what UConn has at center, right? That's going to be a big matchup against Floyd Badunga. I think top to bottom for KU, this game comes down to how well can KU play defensively and how hard can KU make UConn work to get offense. I think that's going to be the biggest key.
Were you as surprised as we were to learn that Alex Caravan still has college eligibility?
Well, okay, here's a funny story. I remember when he was a recruit and Iowa State was like his first offer. And this is when I was covering Iowa State. So that tells you how long ago that was. You know, we're talking, what, 4 or 5 years?
Yeah.
Like, it's incredible. I mean, he's one of the, I think, he redshirted, got 2 national titles, and now is a senior. I mean, that's a pretty darn good college career for someone. So, yeah, I was just surprised that he had another year after last year when I was like, wait, he has another year after the second title? And now we are 2 years later. So just funny how that works.
All right, so KU is a 2.5-point underdog at home. You factor in Allen Fieldhouse. Again, this isn't a bad KU team by any means. It's not like you expect them to just go at home, get bludgeoned by a good UConn team. But 2.5-point dog, does that sound about right for this matchup, given no DP this evening?
Yeah, I think so. I think so. I think it's one of those, again, you talk about defensively, hey, man, like a crowd can have an impact on that, right? How locked in you are, how much energy you play with. And so I think it feels about right. You know, if Peterson was playing, KU's probably maybe a 1-point favorite. Like, it's one of those where it would still be a kind of a coin flip game, if you will. So I think it's pretty fair overall.
Talking to Michael Swain of Fog.net, joining us here on 580 Sports Talk for Jayhawk Weekly via the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. Again, all of Michael's great work covering KU can be found over at Fog.net. Have to get to a little football here before we let you go, Michael. That sucked. That was real crap on Friday. Kind of figured it would go that way. But the thing that really kills you, it's always the hope, right, Michael? Because, like, going into it, we talked about this last week. Like, yeah, this is not an especially good matchup for KU. but they had chances. They had opportunities. It's not like Utah just completely bludgeoned them. I know, you look at the success rate chart for the week, and Utah certainly was the better team. I'm not arguing that.
Mm-hmm.
But KU had chances and did effectively nothing with them. That, to me, is the most painful part of all of this. What was your big takeaway from that Black Friday loss to Utah?
Man, it's just one of those where I think it sums up the season. Good enough to win games, but just not good enough in crucial times. And whether it be, you can look at Jalen's level of play late in the game, and man, do you feel bad for him.
Yep.
Having your college career, right, end with that fourth quarter, just, you feel bad for him. But at the crucial times of this season, Jalen didn't perform at his best. I think that this just puts the feather in the cap of the end of the season for him. That was a big struggle. But then you can look at it for KU defensively, like, hey, they had some good stretches, right? Utah went in with one of the best offenses in the country, and they scored 24 points on offense. Like, you would have taken that in a heartbeat going into the game. Like, we were talking pregame, right, about, hey, can KU hold them under 40? And there you are talking about the defense giving up 24 points. But then again, when it mattered most, KU's defense could not get a stop, right? That's another thing that we saw over the course of the season. And so it's just one of those where everything about it just was the most, like, for KU fans, like, probably the most painful way to lose that game, to have the lead, be in the red zone, then have the interception, you get back to the red zone, respond, and then it's a pick six. Like, it's just one of those where if you're drawing up, like, worst ways to lose what would have been a huge ranked win, get you to 6 wins, the ways to lose it, man, that's got to be up there for some of the worst ways. So it's just one of those, though, where, it just kind of sums up the season for KU. And that's definitely, I think, just a bummer considering where things were at the start of the year.
But even before the real crap started to avalanche in that game, like did you even, when it was early and KU was hanging around and punching back, was there a feeling you had like, oh, okay, like this feels real, this feels like KU has a real chance to get it done? Or were you exclusively feeling like, yeah, it's gonna go badly here?
Yeah, so I think, honestly, for a good chunk of the game, I was like, all right, when's the avalanche going to happen, right? When's that going to happen? And then, KU gets into the red zone with the potential of going up 11 if KU scores a touchdown. I'm kind of like, okay, here, hold on a second. KU's moving the ball. They finally started deciding to run the ball like they should have from the beginning. And then the interception. And it's just like, okay, here it comes. And from there, that was one that was like, all right, well, how is KU going to lose this game? They're going to find a way. But yeah, for a split second, I'd say for about 5 minutes there, I was like, KU might actually win this game. Now, I was kind of thinking like, all right, so what sort of bowl games you looking at? And then obviously everything changed. But for a minute there was a glimmer of, all right, look at KU. They may pull this thing off. But then obviously it all came crashing down.
We're joined by Michael Swain of Fog.net and 24/7 Sports, and it's kind of like an overall question over the last couple of years. How does KU go football-wise from a 9-win season to combining 10 over the next 2 seasons? How does that happen when there is so much hype and looking forward to not only last season and then the ending to last season, how they kind of got things on the right track to start of this year? How's it end like we're seeing it now?
Yeah, it comes down to one-score games, and I think you can look even in that 23 year. KU is just a little bit more fortunate, I think, in some of those one-score games. You can look at the end of the year, right, going on the road, beating Iowa State. You can look at the Oklahoma game. You can look early in the year, kind of the BYU game. Those were one-score games that went KU's way, and they were able to find ways to come out with the win. And then you can look really since that Oklahoma game. I don't have the stat in front of me, but it's something like, like 3-12 or something like that in one-score games, or KU just consistently has not won in those tight margin games, and that's what the Big 12 is. Like, it doesn't look year to year. KU's going to play, if they play, the 9 Big 12 games, 5 of those are going to be one-score games, and over the last 2 years, KU has pretty much gone 1-4, in those games, and so that's how you do go from having a 9-win season, returning a lot, and then all of a sudden, having the momentum come to a halt. So I think it's one of those where you can look at specific decisions in each game, right? Has KU been too conservative at times? I could argue yes. I could make a very good argument, yes. But at the end of the day, right, players have to go and make kind of those clutch plays. And at times, right, you can look in 23, LJ Arnold catching that touchdown pass from Jason Bean at Iowa State. That one flips that game. But then you can equally look at the end of the Cincinnati game and Trey Lathan having an interception to seal the win, fall right off his hands. And so it comes down to players making plays too. And just over the last 2 years, KU's guys just haven't been able to make that key play in the key moment to help KU win the ball game.
Michael, one word as we get you out of here. Is the week 1 or week 0 starter for next year on the roster right now for KU at quarterback?
Yes, I do think so.
I like it. Michael Swain, he's the best at covering KU. Go find his great work at fog.net. If you're not a VIP, you're missing out. Go sign up right now. Michael, as always, man, we appreciate the time. We'll talk to you next week.
Awesome. Sounds great. Talk to you next week.
That is the great Michael Swain of fog.net. We've got to get to a break. We'll come on back, wrap up the 4 o'clock hour after this on 580 Sports Talk. All right, quick round of Random Question Tuesday before we wrap up this hour. We've only got about 40 seconds. Spencer, is chili a soup?
No. Yeah. Yes. No. No, because you don't put soup on a hot dog. That's my final answer.
No, that's fair. That's entirely fair.
But you can eat chili itself, though, in a bowl.
See, I think
but it's not soup because it's not liquidy.
It depends on how you make it. I prefer a chili like out of, the canned stuff, the Hormel stuff that's thick. Like that's what I think of as chili, and that's not a soup.
Yeah.
My wife's chili, though, very soup-like. So it either or, I suppose. We got just a few minutes left of 580 Sports Talk. We'll get some headlines before we send you off to high school basketball. Coming up, top of the hour, 580 WIBW. Sports Talk 5 o'clock hour going up on a Tuesday. Brendan Dworzinski, Spencer Dupuis here with you as we round out this show on a Tuesday afternoon before we send you off to coverage of 580 Preps Tuesday Night Hoops to open up the high school basketball season with some United Kansas Conference action as the Seaman Vikings take on the Piper Pirates girls then boys doubleheader. All four teams ranked in the top 10 in Class 5A. That's right. Seaman girls, Seaman boys, Piper girls, Piper boys, all top 10. Should be a phenomenal night of basketball up at Viking Gymnasium this evening. And we'll have all the coverage for you right here on 580 WIBW. Pre-game coverage will start as soon as we are done somewhere within the next 20 minutes or so, roughly 20 minutes, maybe. Got about 5 minutes left in JV. 5 minutes left in the third quarter
Probably
of JV.
3 minutes now.
Okay, yeah. A few minutes left in the JV third quarter. But whenever they are done with the JV game up at Seaman, we will pass you off to Dan Lucero and the coach, Larry Latimer. Going to be great to hear from Lat. Been too long since we've heard from Lat. But we will hear from them coming up a little bit later on for, again, the first edition of 580 Preps Tuesday Night Hoops for the 2025-2026 high school basketball season. Coming up, though, in this final 20-ish minutes of 580 Sports Talk today, we'll get you our 580 Sports Talk headlines. Not an especially full day of headlines. Do have plenty of college football to get to, though. We'll get some final picks for the KU game coming up tonight. I want to give my thoughts, and Spencer, I know you do too, about the K-State game last night. I want to get to that. In fact, We'll even get to that before we get to the rest of the headlines. I know Dan covered it in the first hour, but let's be honest, that was an hour and a half ago. Life has changed a lot in the last 90-ish minutes. So we're going to get our thoughts on last night's K-State game. I think Spencer and I are in a similar place. I think I think your take is a little stronger than mine, but we'll get to that here in just a moment. We'll pick the KU game tonight, get some other 580 Sports Talk headlines, and we will also get a final word for you today. Couple quick pieces of housekeeping before we let you go. If you missed any part of the show today and you said, damn, I really want to go back and listen, you can go and check out the podcast on Spotify. Open up, bring out your phone. I got it right here. If you're watching on the YouTube, got my phone right here. Got a picture of my kiddo on it. You're going to open it up. You're going to go to your homepage. You're going to hit that Spotify button. It's going to pop up. Blam! App open right there. I was listening to some NFL podcasts earlier. Yes, indeed. That is Olivia Rodrigo, who I listened to recently. Her second album, it's good. It's a legit album. It's very good. But you just search 580 Sports Talk. Boom! There it is right there. Subscribe to it. Like it. You can check it all out. Listen to the show hour by hour, all on Spotify. That's anywhere in the world right there with you. By the way, most recent song I was listening to, if you can see it right there, So Sick of Dreaming by Maggie Rogers off her most recent album as well. She is the absolute freaking best. So that's how you can check out the Spotify. Go check out the YouTube channel as well if you want to watch the show live in living color. That's right, the video version of the show. You can go find that over on YouTube. Once we get to 900 YouTube subscribers, we're doing karaoke. 580 Sports Talk host karaoke. We're only 30 subscribers away, so if you haven't yet, we implore you and invite you to go check us out on YouTube and over on our website, 580WIBW.com. Spencer, do you know what went live over the last 2 days on 580WIBW.com? I'm going to tell you.
Something new that's going to be exciting for our listeners to hear.
You are damn right about that, Spencer Dupuis. Give yourself a pat on the back. The digital version, the only version, of the high school basketball breakdowns and previews for Pigskin and Hoops 2025 are now live on our website. That's right. Every single school in our listening area, you can now find a breakdown and a preview of their girls and boys basketball teams in the Pigskin and Hoops section of 580WIBW.com. Just go to the website, that same URL I just mentioned. It's right there on the homepage. You only have to scroll down a little bit. It'll say Pigskin and Hoops. Click on the big red block, and you will be led to our homepage for all of our 2025 Pigskin and Hoops basketball breakdowns. Dan's letter to preview the season. It is all right there. We implore you to go check it out. Dan and I were writing those over the course of the last couple of days and weeks. Go check them out at 580WIBW.com, including you wanted to go read the preview for the Seaman Vikings before Tuesday Night Hoops tonight. Boom. You go find it right there at 580wibw.com. During the end of the hour, after I asked you, Spencer, is chili a soup? It set off a nuclear explosion of food commentary in the YouTube comments.
I feel like whenever we talk any small food take, it turns into the comments of the YouTube blowing up and making us all hungry.
And it's always the damn last hour. We're talking chili and cinnamon. Yeah, believe it or not, if you have listened to this show ever, and you said, wow, I bet at some point today they're going to talk about chili and cinnamon rolls. That's somehow going to come up on this program. Well, today you would be right. You'd also be right like every third day after the month of August until the month of May, pretty much. Our guy Vance is making lasagna tonight. Vance, you know lasagna is my favorite food. Come on, man. All sorts of good stuff in there. So if you haven't checked out the YouTube, go hang out in the comment section with all the folks. Lots of good food stuff right now being discussed. Update, we are probably in the neighborhood of about 15, 20 minutes away from the start of Tuesday Night Hoops. So, Spencer, let's get to what we wanted to talk about here. Let's start with K-State basketball from last night. The Cats lose by 16 points at home to Bowling Green, the team that was picked 7th in the MAC. I was going to say I'm of two minds about this. I'm not. I'm of one. This is a very bad loss. This is right there this is probably the worst loss of the Jerome Tang era. Everything encapsulated. The fact that, in my opinion, already on the hot seat, you got to make the tournament this year. That Elite Eight is a long time ago now. You've got to make the tournament this year. And I will say, I like what K-State, and KU, but I like what K-State, generally speaking, has done this offseason. Not every move is perfect, but I like what they've done this offseason. They got off to this incredible rip-roaring start to the season. They're scoring. They're beating up on Mississippi State and Chris Jans, and you're feeling like, oh, man, we're cooking. We're moving in the right direction. Jerome Tang is back, baby. Yeah! And then you lose the game to Nebraska in crappy fashion, and okay, yeah, you brushed it off. That game stunk. The officiating was bleh, whatever. Then Indiana. Okay, Indiana's a top 25 team. You had to go to Assembly Hall. Okay, fine. They just lost to Bowling Green by double figures, man. And look, on one hand, yes, when all three of your best players stink on the same night, you are not going to beat much of anyone. I understand that, and I sympathize with it. And I see our guy Ryan in the YouTube comments saying, no, don't do it, Brendan. Ryan, I apologize. I know he's a big Cats fan. I know a lot of you guys are Cats fans, and we're so excited going into this, or maybe a little low-key this year. Like, I don't know. I've been kind of let down the last few seasons. Football's already draining me this year. I just don't know about basketball. And then only to have your emotions ratcheted up like crazy because of that great 5-game start. And then to have this just hit you right in the face with a brutal blast of reality, unpleasant. So again, the point I was going to make is if your three best players all stink all at the exact same time, and PJ Haggerty was bad, and no one was good last night for K-State, you're not going to beat many teams. That being said, this is where I say I'm of two minds here. That is understandable why you would lose when all of your guys are struggling at once. It happened. Happened to KU God knows how many times last year. I get it. You are a Big 12 program, the best conference in the country. SEC was great last year, but this is like when people said Christian Yelich was better than Mike Trout. I need multiple years of evidence before I'm willing to say the SEC is a better basketball league than the Big 12 overall. Big 12 right now is still the cream of the crop in basketball in the country, generally speaking. You are a Big 12 program that has your sights set on making it to the NCAA tournament this year, correct? Like that's the goal for this K-State team, right? Make it to the tournament. You cannot be in a position under any circumstances where you are losing to Bowling Green. I know Haggerty stunk. I know he did not have help, but you've got to have some way where you can scratch and claw and figure it out and end the game being able to say, wow, that sucked. That was ugly. Thank God we won, but man, we got a lot of work to do. That should be the worst case scenario against a team like that. And for K-State, it wasn't. And it would even be one thing, Spencer, if they had lost 82-76. And man, they got Bowling Green got hot from 3 late, and we had a guy foul out, and 2 possessions. I mean, that would be bad. It's really bad to lose by 16 at home to Bowling Green. That is where my concern lies, is that when this team is firing on all cylinders, they can still hang. They can still compete. I didn't feel like they had they played poorly against Indiana, but I think that was more about Indiana than it was K-State. I don't think K-State should have hung its head about that game. This was just bad. And you should not be in a position where you are so thin across the roster that there's no recourse to beat a program like that. That's where my worry is. Because not every night when you get to Big 12 play is going to be All-America stuff from Haggerty, and Bashir is untouchable, and the Johnsons are going crazy. It's not going to be like that. And if you can't do it against Bowling Green, I have some major worries about your ability to do it against KU and Iowa State, God forbid Houston, teams like that. That's why I am particularly worried after a loss like that last night. I will leave the floor to you here because we got a text from the 785. 785-272-9429 if you want to text into the show. Time to check out on KSU Hoops until the 6-game stretch in February where they look like the 96 Bulls. That's kind of been their thing, right? Like they kind of have that stretch where I believe one more year with a roster full of transfers and we can do it. But I'll open it up to you because the group chat was getting feisty last night. I stayed in the background. I let you and Dan participate. I will let you take the floor here, Spencer, because I think you feel very strongly about this team.
Well, look, I said it from the beginning. You're going to have to prove to me that this team can win big games and not just by like you got to be able to, like, it's college basketball. It's not the NBA. This is not score all you want and just beat the other. Like, I feel like the philosophy in the NBA. You
can't win just by outscoring.
Yes, I feel like that's a philosophy in the NBA. Like, there's not a lot of defense focused in the NBA. But in the NCAA, in college basketball, I feel like defense is a huge part of the game where it's not in the NBA. And you gave up 90 in an exhibition to a D2 team. Yeah, they had a hot shooting day, but still, that's where I started. And then they had this little good stretch to start the season, beating teams in which you should beat because your guys were on fire. If they weren't on fire, what would the score be? Your 1-point win against Tulsa? Like, come on, man. And then you go up and lose to a Nebraska team, 86-85 in Kansas City, when half the people there are Nebraska fans. Like, I feel like there are a lot more Nebraska fans in that arena. You go to an Indiana team in a, one of those mecca of college basketball situations, and you get blown out essentially. And then you follow that up by at home against a team that was picked 7th in a mid-major conference in the Mid-American Conference, and you get blown out. Like, you can't do this. Even Jerome Tang said he wishes he could leave. Well, then leave, Jerome. You could have left last year. Why didn't you?
I hear you. I get it. That's an interesting point, an interesting perspective that is probably worth bringing up here too, is that the responding to the loss to Indiana like that is a concern as well. Like, the first game after that, you should have been so keyed up, like, all right, it is time to beat the crap out of these guys. We got to get our mojo back. Instead, you got stepped on. And that's just not what I expected to see from this team this year. Like, 6 bench points.
Yeah.
Moby Ike-Garuka played 16 minutes and gave you 2 shots, rebounded the ball well, put up 2 shots. 2 of your 6 bench points were Taj Manning. Like, you just need more than that. And look, I still think there's a lot ahead for this K-State program. If they have a great run in Big 12 play, they still can make the NCAA tournament. David Castillo has been really good. He has been a big plus for this K-State team and a great story of development to this point. That's a big win up until now. He had a good game, offensively at least. But I do think your overall point is well met. You've got to have a way to win when the shots aren't falling. And I know K-State fans, I know you hate when I bring up Bill Self when I'm talking K-State. But he quotes this all the time. We need to be able to win games when we're not making shots. And K-State to this point has not found a way to do that. And last night was a prime example of that. That is where my worry comes in. Where are you? What are you going to be when the offense isn't humming? And shooting 39% from the floor and 26% from three and 55% from the free throw line is not going to cut it against anyone in the Big 12. And it certainly, if it wasn't enough, to beat a team from Bowling Green, who did, in fairness, get hot from three. Javon Ruffin made 5 of 8 last night. Probably won't do that all that often this season. But you've got to find someone who can contribute more defensively. Right now, K-State does not quite have that.
And Tang's got to realize, like, I hate the coaches speak like that he had during the Big 12 media days. I got the best scorer in the. I get you want to be confident, but like, don't make those remarks like that, man. Come on, you're just setting yourself up for failure.
Should we get to a couple headlines before we wrap up here?
Yeah, we've got a couple. We got one specifically blown up in the last 25 minutes.
Why don't we jump in right with that? Why don't you take it away?
Former Big 12 West Virginia coach Neil Brown's going to be a head coach in North Texas. They finalized a 5-year deal as he leaves as the special assistant at Texas.
Interesting.
Yeah. Neil Brown back to the G6, G5 level.
He had success at Troy before. I mean, I liked the hire when West Virginia hired him. He was part of that Les Miles, Chris Kleiman. Oh, who was the other dingbat who got hired in that cycle? He was part of that hiring cycle. That's probably the right level for him.
Yeah.
He can probably succeed again in the American. Let's stick with college football coaches, shall we? I don't think we got your take on the Kalani Sitake situation a little bit earlier on. Reports are coming in. I don't know if it's been made official yet. I don't have social media open in front of me right now, but reporting as of about 3:30 today, Kalani Sitake is now expected to stay at BYU. He'll get a reworked contract with a raise, more money and resources for his staff as well. He decides not to go to Penn State. I don't know what the hell they're going to do. I think this is great for BYU, and it's great for the Big 12. This is a league that wants to consider itself equal to the Big 10 and the SEC. And whether that's true or not, keeping really good coaches away from those conferences is a big-time win. This is great for BYU, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think it's huge. You got a guy who's about to coach his team in the Big 12 championship this weekend, and I think he's probably a guy that's like, well, if we don't win, I want to finish it out. I want to make sure we win the Big 12 championship because we talked about it earlier. You guys hit on it. You can't necessarily make the playoff. It's going to be hard for them to make the playoff probably without winning.
Yes, which I think stinks. Yeah. I genuinely think that sucks.
But like, yeah, just keep it going. And I mean, BYU football has gotten so much better over the last 5-10 years.
Other college football coaching news. This was last night. This became official. Kentucky is hiring Will Stein. He is the now former offensive coordinator at Oregon. I don't know if Kentucky will allow him to coach in the playoff. He probably will, if I had to assume. But yeah, Will Stein, interesting story. He is from Kentucky. His dad played at Kentucky. So Stein grew up a huge Cats fan. He ended up playing college football at Louisville and now has been a coach on the rise over the course of the last couple seasons. Good offensive mind. Kentucky needs a breath of fresh air. They have been
they do.
Score 20 points and we'll win the game, run the ball, run the clock kind of team for too long under Mark Stoops. I think that's going to be a fun addition for Kentucky. So a big move there for the Blue Wildcats. Also, one other piece of information, and I have this pulled up here, that just was breaking around the top of the hour today. Another Oregon coordinator is expected to stay with a former Pac-12 team, Tosh Lupoy, the defensive coordinator for Oregon. He is the top target and for now is expected to head down to Cal and go to the Cal Bears. That's probably about as good of a get as they could possibly hope for. That's essentially what I've got for Cal football.
Yeah. There's some other news coming out, which was kind of unthought or didn't think this was going to happen, but Ole Miss will have offensive coordinator Charlie Weiss throughout the playoff run.
Yes. So where do you stand on this? Because like I do not blame Ole Miss for saying, no, you can't coach this team. They've been calling Lane Kiffin the portal king. He's going to try to take all of those guys. Yeah. Ole Miss has got to do whatever it can to stand its ground here. So I don't blame Ole Miss at all for saying, no, we're not putting up with that. That's fine. Letting his coordinator stick around. Did you see what LSU negotiated into Lane Kiffin's contract?
No, I didn't.
If Ole Miss wins the playoff, LSU is going to pay him out his Ole Miss bonus. He had $1 million bonus if he led Ole Miss to the college football national championship. He got that negotiated into his contract at LSU for this year. So if his Ole Miss team goes on and wins the national championship, he ends up getting $1 million.
That's crazy.
Yeah, that is pretty crazy. Are we good to go to send it out to North Topeka?
We got to take a break.
We got to take a quick break.
We'll do final word.
Perfect. Final word up next. Then we'll send it to 580 Preps Tuesday Night Hoops. Oh my gosh, a lot happening here on 580 Sports Talk. Wrapping up this edition of 580 Sports Talk, Brendan Dworzinski and Spencer Dupuis here as we get you ready to send things over to Viking Gymnasium at Seaman High School for the first edition of 580 Preps Tuesday Night Hoops for this year. I cannot believe high school basketball season is already here.
Yeah.
Spencer Dupuis, you want to take us away with a final word?
Yeah, final word for me. We discussed the embarrassing at-home loss last night for K-State. KU's got a big opportunity tonight, although without Darryn Peterson, they can show that they are not just the DP show. And I think that's huge for their confidence because we saw what they did last week at the Players Era without him. And I think if you can build momentum, it'd be huge if you get I'd call it an upset win over UConn at home tonight. That'd be huge, I think, if they could do it with the guys that aren't DP who showed out last week at the Players Era.
Yeah, my final word for today is also college basketball related. I know we just talked a lot of K-State a few moments ago, but just to kind of sum things up there, everything is still out in front of this Kansas State team. Now, if you're a fan of a coach who says that pretty regularly, you're probably not thrilled that I just said it because that's usually a sign that your team kind of stinks. But I do mean it on a serious note. There is a lot still for K-State to accomplish. They still can be an NCAA tournament team. There's no doubt they can be. Now, they've got to be really good in conference play because they probably need 2 good conference wins just to make up for this one really bad non-conference loss, but it is still out there in front of them. But they have got to know over their next few games and the final games of their season that are going to end non-conference play. Who are we and what are we going to be? Before you open against BYU on January 3rd, here is what is out in front of K-State in the non-con. Seton Hall on Saturday at home. Mississippi Valley State, you should beat them by a zillion. At Creighton, who is down. Home for South Dakota. And home for my boys, the Monroe Warhawks, UL Monroe. You need to win all of those games. All but one of them. Like, Creighton's a good program, although, again, they are down right now. So far, just 4-3 on the year, and I believe they had a pretty rough loss. They've had a brutal schedule so far. Lost to Gonzaga, Baylor, and Iowa State. They did just beat Oregon. So they've had a really tough schedule early on. Can you, in those next 5 games, go 4-1? If you can, all things considered, I'm feeling okay. You'd be 9-4 at that point. It's not great. It's not awful. You do have one really bad loss, one pretty decent win. You'd get another pretty good win if you're able to get through that, if you knock off Seton Hall. That's what you've got to think if you're K-State at this point. You need wins. You need to stack wins, and you need to stack as many of them as possible as quickly as possible. Opening up Big 12 play against BYU. Woof. Meanwhile, for KU tonight, it sucks that there's no Darryn Peterson. Darryn Peterson is an incredible talent, and KU is more entertaining, more fun, more exciting, more interesting for our purposes if Darryn Peterson is out there. I hope he's out there soon. I'm not going to stress about it, though, because there's too much other stuff in the world to stress about. When he's back, he'll be back. I just hope KU shows out pretty well for itself. The book still like KU only as a 2.5-point underdog tonight. That's still pretty close to Allen Fieldhouse. Thought it might be more than that. Tells me they think KU's got a real puncher's chance this evening. We will be back tomorrow starting at 3 o'clock. Full show coming your way. Tim Fitzgerald will join us. We'll recap KU UConn and get to a whole lot else. For Dan Lucero, for Spencer Dupuy, I'm Brendan Dworzynski. This has been 580 Sports Talk. Check out the podcast on Spotify. Check out the video on YouTube. We'll get to a break. 580 Preps Tuesday Night Hoops coming up next from the Viking Gymnasium. Seaman versus Piper. Dan Lucero and Larry Latimer on the call here on 580 WIBW.